The victims are identified as 25-year-old Kiana Weathersby, her 2-year-old son, Kamari Givens, and 30-year-old Erica Weathersby, Kiana's sister and the child's aunt. Jackson police say the three were found shot multiple times inside a home on Queen Alexandria Lane just after 9:15 Saturday night.
It's a Saturday night in Jackson, Mississippi. Queen Alexandria Lane is quiet. The kind of quiet you only get in a residential neighborhood after the streetlights kick on and the dinner dishes are already in the sink. Inside a small home on that street, 25-year-old Kiana Weathersby is doing what she does every night. Bathing her son, reading to him maybe, kissing his forehead before she lays him down in his crib. Her older sister, Erica, 30 years old, the one Kiana calls when the world gets heavy, is there too. Just an ordinary Saturday, sisters keeping each other company, a toddler drifting off to sleep in the next room. There is nothing about this evening that suggests it will be the last one. At 9:15 p.m., that changes forever. Police would later say it was one of the worst scenes investigators in this city had encountered in a decade. 3 people, 1 house, all of them gone within minutes of each other. And here's the detail that will stop you cold. The one detail you won't be able to unhear. Kamari, Kiana's son, was 2 years old. He was shot in his own bed, asleep, in the one place a 2-year-old is supposed to be safest in the entire world. Before we get to who did this, and we will, I want you to know who they were. Because somewhere in the retelling of true crime, the victims become footnotes to the manhunt. Not here, not tonight. This is the story of Kiana, Erica, and Kamari. If this is your first time here, welcome to Real Crime Stories, where we don't just chase the headlines, we sit with the people behind them. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we've got a lot more of these cases waiting for you. Kiana Weathersby was 25 years old, and if you'd asked anyone who knew her to describe her in one word, that word would have been mother. Not in the abstract, greeting card sense, in the daily, exhausting, get up before sunrise sense. Jackson isn't always an easy place to raise a child alone. The bills don't wait, the days are long, and there isn't always a safety net underneath you. But Kiana built one anyway, out of routine and love and sheer stubbornness. She showed up. Every day, she showed up for Kamari. People who knew her talk about the way she'd light up a room without even trying, the kind of warmth that made people feel like they mattered when she was in the room with them. She wasn't chasing anything flashy. She was chasing a good life for her son, one ordinary Saturday at a time. Erica Weathersby was 35 years older than her sister, and in the way that older sisters often become without ever officially signing up for the job, she was the one Kiana called when things got hard. Erica was steady. Erica showed up when it mattered. And on this particular Saturday night, showing up meant simply being there, in the house, with her sister and her nephew, doing nothing more dramatic than spending time together. That's what sisters do. They don't need a reason. And then there was Kamari, 2 years old. At that age, a child's entire universe is still small enough to fit inside one house, one crib, one mother's voice reading him to sleep. He didn't know what a headline was. He didn't know his name would end up in one. His whole world, at 2 years old, was Kiana. Her voice, her hands, the particular way she tucked him in every single night. That Saturday looked like every other Saturday before it. The television was still on when it was over. Dinner had been made and mostly eaten. Plates still out. The ordinary debris of a family evening that hadn't finished yet. Kamari had been bathed. He'd been kissed goodnight. He was in his bed, asleep, exactly where a 2-year-old is supposed to be at 9:15 on a Saturday night. There was no warning in any of it. No sign that this was the last ordinary evening this family would ever have. Just a mother, her sister, and her son. Home. Together. Safe. Until suddenly they weren't. That's who they were before this story turns into the one you already know is coming. The evening had unfolded exactly the way thousands of evenings had unfolded before it in that house. Bath time. A quiet dinner. The television humming in the background. the way it does in every home where nothing is wrong. Kamari asleep in his crib by the time the house had fully settled into night. Somewhere outside, though, something had already been set into motion. Nobody inside that house knew it yet. There was no argument, no confrontation, nothing that gave Kiana or Erica a moment's warning that this Saturday was different from any other. Then, just after 9 o'clock, it wasn't ordinary anymore. Investigators would later piece together that the two women were shot first. Whatever happened in those first seconds, it happened fast. Fast enough that neither of them had time to reach Kamari's room. Fast enough that neither of them could do the one thing every mother and every aunt would have done without hesitation if they'd had even a few more seconds. Get to that boy. And then, whoever did this walked further into the house, toward the room where a 2-year-old was sleeping, toward a crib, toward a child who had been kissed goodnight less than an hour earlier and had no understanding of danger, no ability to run, no way to protect himself. We're not going to walk you through the clinical details of what came next. Some things don't need forensic language to land with their full weight, and this is one of them. What you need to know is this. By the time it was over, 3 people who had done nothing but exist inside their own home on a Saturday night were gone. A mother, her sister, her son. Police received the call around 9:15 p.m., a report of an aggravated assault at a residence on a quiet street, less than 10 miles from downtown Jackson. When officers arrived, they walked into what Jackson Police Chief Brackney would later describe as one of the most horrifying scenes investigators in that city had encountered in years.
Ali Joe, we did drive down Queen Alexandria Lane yesterday, and I mean, if you drove down there, you would never be able to tell that a mother, her toddler, and another woman were shot and killed there Saturday night. I mean, there was no crime scene tape anywhere, and it just seemed like everyone was going about their normal day. And here at JPD, they tell us that they're still searching for a suspect. They also tell us that the victims were 30 and 26 years old, and the toddler was just 2 years old. A red Mitsubishi missing from the victim's home was found yesterday at Manhattan Park, but police say it was empty.
Whoever did this is an absolute coward and is probably the most vilest of human beings.
The coroner, a man with nearly a decade of experience processing scenes most people never have to imagine, would say much the same thing. There's a particular kind of silence that comes over a room full of trained professionals, people whose job is to stay composed in front of tragedy, when what they're looking at exceeds even their frame of reference. That was this scene. In the days that followed, Chief Brackney stood in front of cameras and said the words that would end up on every headline covering this case, that this was a heinous crime and that whoever did this was, in her words, an absolute coward. It's a hard word to hear applied to something this devastating, because coward almost feels too small. But maybe that's exactly the point. Whoever walked into that home and ended 3 lives, including the life of a child who had just turned 2, didn't confront anyone, didn't give anyone a chance, just took everything from a family that had done nothing except be home, together, on an ordinary Saturday night. Now the story shifts, because somewhere out there, the person or people responsible were still walking free, and a city was about to demand answers. In the hours after the shooting, Jackson police weren't working from thin air. This wasn't a random act with no trail. It was a scene, and scenes leave evidence. Investigators worked it carefully, treating every detail as something that could lead back to the people responsible for what had happened to Kiana, Erica, and Kamari. One thread emerged almost immediately. Kiana's car, a red Mitsubishi Mirage, was gone, taken from the home sometime during or after the killings. For detectives, that vehicle became the physical thread connecting an empty house to whoever had walked out of it. It was found abandoned the following day, and from there, it went to forensic teams, with the FBI stepping in to assist as the investigation deepened. But a car doesn't solve a case on its own. What helped move things forward was the community, people who knew this family, people who couldn't stay silent knowing what had happened to a mother, her sister, and a 2-year-old boy. Tips started coming in, not abstract leads chasing an abstract suspect, but people who cared about Kiana and Erica, wanting to see this through for them specifically.
It was devastating. Just to hear about 3 lives lost at once, and then for one to be a baby, a toddler, it was the least that I could do.
That same disbelief is deeply felt by the sister's older brother, DeMarco Bailey, who lives in Texas.
I just lost my wife 2 years ago, to cancer. So I'm raising 2 kids on my own. So, that was getting us at the end to get this phone call saying that, what happened between my 2 sisters now, my sister, and my nephew, man, man, I've been discombobulated, man.
He says his sisters were kind, easygoing women who were best friends. They were also raising Kamari together.
We went on out fighting in the club, doing all that. No, man, my sister was chill, working to get some money. That's the only thing, went working to get some money.
Bailey says he doesn't know who could have done this to hurt his family.
I just need justice. I need justice. Not only for my sister, but my nephew. He's only 2.5 years old. The baby was only 2. Come on, man. What? A 2-year-old child?
Investigators say that they recovered a 2020 red Mitsubishi Mirage in North Jackson that was stolen from this home, but the vehicle was not occupied. Now they're asking the public to give any details that could lead to an arrest.
Among those speaking out was DeMarco Bailey's brother, who gave an interview in the days following the killings. He wasn't speaking as an outside observer, commenting on a case in the news. He was speaking as someone connected to this family, someone for whom this wasn't content, it was loss. His words carried the same message the whole community seemed to be sending. Whoever did this needed to be found, and this family deserved that. By the following Monday, detectives had developed information pointing toward a vehicle believed to be tied to the killings. Officers attempted a traffic stop near 18th Avenue and Maddox Road. The driver didn't stop. What followed was a standoff that ended with police surrounding the vehicle, and 2 suspects, identified as Cornelius Carter and Jordan Carter, were taken into custody without further incident. Inside that vehicle, officers recovered 3 firearms, a 9mm assault-style weapon, a pistol, and a gold-colored handgun. All 3 were sent for ballistic testing to determine whether any of them had been used inside that home on Queen Alexandria Lane. For a family and a community that had spent days holding their breath, these arrests were something. A first answer, a first sign that the people responsible weren't going to simply disappear. But it wasn't the end of the story. It was only part of it. Because as investigators kept working, it became clear that Cornelius and Jordan Carter weren't the only names attached to what happened that Saturday night. Days into the investigation, a third name entered the case. Michaela Young, 25 years old, was arrested and made her first court appearance shortly after, where a judge denied her bond. She was charged with capital murder, joining Cornelius and Jordan Carter as the third person facing accountability for what happened inside that home. And the case didn't stop there either. Weeks later, a 4th suspect, someone investigators hadn't publicly named, was arrested in Texas and extradited back to face the same capital murder charge. 4 people, in total, now standing accused in connection with the deaths of a mother, her sister, and her 2-year-old son. Jackson's mayor, John Horn, released a statement in the days following the arrests, saying the city would continue working every day to make sure everyone responsible was brought to justice.
So I'm here with the lead detective Jackson, who just testified in court in this case with both Cornelius Carter and Jordan Carter. Both of them were denied bond in this case. We also let you know that the reason that the judge stated was that they are a known danger to society. They both have prior convictions. They both have spent time incarcerated for aggravated assaults, as well as aggravated assault on a police officer, including one of them is a former felon not to be in possession of a firearm. What we can do at this point in time is update you. Although we have had the first preliminary hearing, Detective Jackson will be able to update you that we are have other persons of interest, and this case is still ongoing and under investigation.
Okay, the detective work that we saw just a couple of days and find this much information and the assailants. Talk to us about that.
A lot of our information came from the community as well as electronics. We were able to use technology to also help us in this case. As you can recall, the victim's vehicle was taken from the home after the homicides. So we used technology, we used our federal partners, and we used our local partners in order to help us with the investigation. But you know what? When it all was said and done, it came down to human resources, our detectives, our intelligence unit teams, our officers, our homicide robbery, all which was being led by Detective Jackson and Captain Wells and DC Banks.
Chief, what do we believe was the motive for this triple homicide? Did the suspects know the victims, or was this a random occurrence?
So we know this was not random, but we will not comment or speculate on motive. Again, we don't want to jeopardize this case and put anything at risk. We're going to make sure that every single lead is uncovered, every information that we have is thoroughly vetted, and that it meets the standard for capital murder in this case.
And I know you said you do not want to speculate on why this occurred, but can you tell us how they know each other?
So at this point in time, the relationship that we do know that they do know each other. Again, part of our investigation, if we start to reveal too much, we'll also tip off other people that we may are still looking for or still investigating. And we do not want to jeopardize that at all.
And so, Chief, we've heard, is it true the toddler was sleeping when he was shot and killed? Do we know at this time?
What we can tell you is that the toddler was in the bed at the time that the toddler was murdered.
And do you believe the toddler was targeted or was just caught in the crossfire?
Until we get the full coroner's report back on the exact trajectory, things of that, our ballistics and our crime labs, this does not appear to be a crossfire incident.
And just for you, Chief, I guess just how devastating is it when you hear that a 2-year-old was shot and killed like this?
So these are the kind of cases that haunt detectives, seasoned detectives, who've been to a lot of horrific scenes over the years. And normally you can move through them in order to get the work done. This one has caused quite a few of us to pause and really have to struggle with our emotions and our feelings and to press through regardless so that we can be justice to the entire family.
And I guess just what does it say about two individuals who would commit an act like this involving a 2-year-old child?
You know, any of these crimes are heinous, but you have to have a heart of pure evil to you just have to have a heart of pure evil.
And my last question, just what's your reaction, or how much of a relief is it to know that these two guys are off the streets right now? They were denied bond.
So it's a relief that they're off the streets, but you know what? Our work isn't done here. There are still other people that we know are involved, and we are going to continue to investigate those leads as well. And we'll update you, and the detective will keep you informed as we make more progress on this case.
It was the kind of statement officials make in moments like this. Necessary, but never quite enough to fill the space this family left behind. Because arrests don't undo anything. They don't put Kiana back in that house, reading to her son before bed. They don't give Erica back the countless ordinary nights she spent showing up for her sister. They don't give Kamari the rest of his life, the one that was supposed to stretch out ahead of him, full of birthdays and first days of school, and every small, unremarkable moment a 2-year-old is owed simply by being born. What's left is a family trying to hold itself together. A GoFundMe was set up in the days after the killings, the kind of thing families shouldn't have to organize but so often do. Trying to cover funeral costs for 3 people at once, trying to find some small way to carry the weight together instead of alone. DeMarco Bailey's brother, and others close to Kiana and Erica, spoke openly about their grief, about the disbelief of losing not one person but 3 from the same family in a single night. The community held vigils. People who had never met Kiana or Erica personally still showed up because a 2-year-old had been taken from his bed, and that kind of loss doesn't require a personal connection to break your heart. If you've made it this far with us, thank you for sitting with this story the way it deserved to be sat with, not as a headline, but as 3 people who mattered. Because in the end, that's what this story is really about. Not the manhunt, not the courtroom dates still to come. It's about a 2-year-old boy named Kamari, who was tucked into his own bed on an ordinary Saturday night, safe, the way every child should be, and who never should have been part of a story like this one at all.